A man who brought change to modern music talks about the artists who moved him. This list has been drawn from the many interviews Stevie Wonder was invited to. Over the years, Stevie has named, honored, and worked with artists who had an impact on his music career. But out of all the legends Stevie admired, who stood tall enough to become the very first name on his list, the one who shaped his music most deeply? Marvin Gaye. The man who pushed him forward. Marvin Gaye was a central figure in Stevie Wonder's story. The two worked in the Motown world in Detroit and later in Los Angeles. Marvin became widely known for albums like What's Going On and Let's Get It On. Those albums were a bigger part of his music career. They always met in the studio to work on new songs and even performed together. Marvin listened to early mixes of Stevie's songs and got inspired. Marvin Gaye could always offer Stevie advice anytime he wanted to work on something big. After Marvin died on April 1, 1984, a memorial service took place in Los Angeles on April 5, 1984. Stevie had the chance to speak at his burial service and said, "Marvin was the person who encouraged me. He told me that I have to feel free to let the music within me come out." At the service, Stevie performed a short ballad he wrote for Marvin called "Lighting Up the Candle." Marvin's records often used warm strings, soft horn lines, and good drum patterns. Those elements appear in several of Stevie's records from the 1970s. Albums such as Inner Visions and Songs in the Key of Life echo the decisions Marvin made on his classic albums. They made television appearances together and also attended festivals. They could also meet each time they had a project to work on. Marvin and Stevie put their brains together to perfect their songs. Marvin would point to a word to be held longer, or to a phrase that needed a softer touch. Stevie would try a different take and change the line. Those interactions strengthened their bond. Music writers link Marvin and Stevie during the time they wrote about Motown in the 1960 seconds and 1970 seconds. Their names appear together in interviews, magazine articles, and televised specials. The two also did charity event performances. It is evident that Stevie Wonder and Marvin Gaye had a strong connection, but Stevie's story doesn't end with Marvin. There was another voice older, wiser, and far more groundbreaking that shaped his path from childhood. What happens when a legend inspires another legend? Ray Charles. The model from childhood. Among the voices that Stevie Wonder heard on the radio while growing up was that of Ray Charles. Ray Charles Robinson was born in 1930 and rose from rural Georgia to the national stage. He mixed gospel feeling with blues and jazz rhythms. Records like What Did I Say, Georgia on My Mind, and Hit the Road Jack were loved and listened to by many people across the world. Ray Charles's skills in playing instruments always stood out. You could tell from a distance that it is him playing. Among the instruments he loved playing was the piano. The tunes he played blended well with the voice of every singer he performed with. He once shared that he started playing in church before he became a world sensation. Ray Charles often led bands and made sure their performances were outstanding. Good leadership skills could be noticed within him from how he interacted with those band members. He always pushed those that he worked with to do better and make great hits. People got to know about the influence Ray Charles had on Stevie Wonder in interviews and podcasts, where Stevie could endlessly talk about him. He shares the first time he heard Ray Charles and it was on the radio, and then progressed to seeing him do live performances. Stevie Wonder had also been featured in magazines where he shared about their friendship and how they related to each other. Stevie Wonder's performances have a touch of Ray Charles's remarkable talent. Ray's records were widely available on vinyl and radio during Stevie's youth. They reached many listeners and were often played almost everywhere, including clubs. Producers who worked with Ray Charles learned his amazing music skills and passed them to upcoming artists. That had an impact on popular music by revolutionizing it. The type of recordings they worked on had great piano tones, awesome vocal placements, and compact band arrangements. Ray Charles remained a public figure through live shows, the records he made, the television appearances, and even documentaries. To this date, Ray Charles still has a good number of listeners. But while Ray Charles shaped Stevie's foundation, there was another legend whose artistry pushed Stevie to reflect deeper on his own music and legacy. Who was bold enough to inspire Stevie next? Prince. The one Stevie publicly praised. Prince Rogers Nelson rose to international fame through a mix of funk, rock, pop, and soul. He played many instruments, wrote many songs, and led bands that had extraordinary performances. His major albums include 1999, Purple Rain, and Sign of the Times. When you listen to those albums, you notice the focus he put on rhythm, tone, and composition. Stevie Wonder talked about Prince Rogers Nelson when Prince died on April 21, 2016. Stevie Wonder described Prince as so picturesque that even I could see it. That phrase came from a short remembrance where Stevie praised Prince for his strong control of his public image and music career. Stevie remembers Prince for his great style in writing lyrics, balancing his voice, and producing hits that were loved by many people. Prince managed much of his own recording process. He wrote songs, did planning, and always played instruments such as the guitar and keyboards on his tracks. His live shows were enjoyable. Stevie paid attention to how Prince Rogers Nelson managed his career and lived his life. Other musicians can attest to his great skills in instrumentals, rhythm work, and great collaborations with other artists. Both artists appeared in award shows and charity events over the years. It is sad finding out that they never had a duet together despite the connection they had with each other, and even at times working with the same producers and artists. Stevie Wonder and Prince Rogers Nelson praised each other publicly, and each talked about the other's unique talents and skills. Stevie highly regarded Prince and put him on top of his list after his demise. Prince's catalog continues to appear on the radio, streaming services, and in tribute concerts. Producers and players still play his hits. This is an indication of the good relationship he had with the people he worked with, including his followers. Stevie's public remarks reflect Prince's approach to music creation and presentation. Prince led the revolution and new power generation and won many awards, including a Grammy and an Academy Award in 1985 for the Purple Rain soundtrack. But if Prince and Stevie never joined forces in the studio, who did Stevie actually step into the booth with, creating a duet so powerful it shook the entire world? Paul McCartney. The duet that crossed worlds, Paul McCartney and Stevie Wonder recorded together on a song that reached millions. The song Ebony and Ivory was written by Paul McCartney and recorded with Stevie in 1981. It was produced at the Air Studios in Montserrat. Paul McCartney wanted a strong voice that could pass the message of racial unity that was being addressed in the song, and Stevie Wonder did not disappoint. The single was released on March 29, 1982. It climbed the charts to reach #1 in the United States and #1 in the United Kingdom. The record spent weeks at the top of the Hot 100 chart in the United States. Sales were strong across Europe and in many other countries. Radio stations played the song heavily during its run. The simplified piano motif was used as the main image in its albums. The instruments featured piano, bass, beat patterns on the light drums, and backing voices in layers. Paul and Stevie had the distinction of recording the vocals and singing together on the chorus. The music video was presented in the form of a split screen or separate shots of the two artists in a studio. They filmed not several joint live versions of the song. However, they were seen in certain events and awards after the release. The message was a point of difference among critics, as was the lyrical simplicity. According to other reviews, the lyric was too basic for such a topic. Whatever the argument was, the turnout was huge. The song won single commercial awards and was incorporated into early 19 pop memory. Paul McCartney and Stevie Wonder remained friends even after the duet. They reunited in social ceremonies and music shows later on. Ebony and Ivory is one of the biggest pop collaborations that occupies the discography of both artists. The arrangement tied the composer of a rock song to one of the legends of soul. The song also featured in the album of Paul McCartney, Tug of War. George Martin was the producer of the single. But if Paul McCartney was Stevie's partner in one of pop's most unexpected duets, what about the bond he shared with another legend, the Queen of Soul herself, Aretha Franklin? Aretha Franklin, the Queen and a friend. Aretha Louise Franklin was born on March 25, 1942, in Memphis, Tennessee, and passed on August 16, 2018, in Detroit, Michigan. Her family migrated, and she was born and brought up in Detroit after they moved. As the pastor of the house was the Reverend Clarence LaVaughn Franklin, and she sang in New Bethel Baptist Church. Aretha shifted to recording and got her first recording contract when she was 18 years old. During those years, Stevie Wonder and Aretha were in the same circles. Both performers had concerts in Detroit and at major state performances. Stevie traveled in August 2018 to Detroit to visit Aretha in her hospice home after she had been based in Los Angeles. Later on, he shared this with the reporters. She was not in a position to speak out, but her family members believed she could listen to me. I told her to greet my sister that I was not doing well this year either. It was an expanded part of the public reports that other friends and family members made 1 or 2 days before she died. Aretha's farewell included a viewing at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History on August 28 and 29. A private homegoing service was held on August 31 at the Greater Grace Temple in Detroit. The full program featured many performers and speakers. Stevie Wonder closed the service with a harmonica rendition of the Lord's Prayer and a performance of his song As. Aretha recorded many songs that remain well known. Her versions of Respect, You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman, I Say a Little Prayer, and Chain of Fools are still played on radio stations. She won 18 Grammy Awards and was the first woman inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1987. Her albums for Atlantic Records in the late 60s, notably I Never Loved a Man the Way I Love You and Lady Soul, marked her major commercial rise. Stevie and Aretha always shared stages at benefits, award shows, and memorial events. Their public appearances together, media reports, and recorded interviews create a strong record of respect and friendship between the two artists. But while Aretha and Stevie's story reflected triumph and legacy, the next voice we meet carried equal brilliance yet ended in tragedy. What happens when genius collides with unbearable struggle? Donny Hathaway. Donny Hathaway hails from Chicago, Illinois. He became known for his soulful voice. Hathaway released his first album, Everything is Everything, in 1970. He followed with a self-titled album in 1971 and Extension of a Man in 1973. Hathaway wrote and sang songs that were not pinned to one style. He recorded The Ghetto, which has a street rhythm. He sang Someday We Will All Be Free, a slow ballad that many singers later recorded. His duet work with Roberta Flack brought wider notice. The 1972 duet, Where Is the Love, reached broad audiences and became one of the best-known songs for both artists. Hathaway also played on Roberta Flack recordings and helped shape a soft, intimate sound on several tracks. Producers and musicians highlight a certain voice that Hathaway had. He employed tiny ornaments, a light vibrato, and a timely manner. Legitimately, he resorted to pauses and pauses as details to provide a space in the phrase. The effect of that was that his ballads sounded like studio records. His instrumentals tended to rely on warm chords and short fills, which held the vocal line without suffocating it. Hathaway toured throughout the early 70s and performed in so many places. He had hired arrangers and session players and interspersed background vocals and strings when needed in a song. His focus in the studio and his sense of phrasing and arrangement were applauded by producers. Unfortunately, he was murdered in January 1979 in New York City. The musical world reacted by holding tribute concerts, along with a revival of his recordings. Hathaway has been referred to as an artist of the age by later performers such as Elton John and Alicia Keys. His albums will keep reappearing in new releases, so if you have never heard any of his albums, be on the lookout. Those pressings and tapes of his shows continue to be sought by collectors even today. His classics are played in classic soul shows and on playlists on radio stations. His songs inspired many people, including Stevie Wonder. But while Hathaway's voice left an unshakable mark, another artist was shaping the very foundation of soul itself, one who didn't just sing history but built it. Who was he? Smokey Robinson. Motown brother and collaborator, Smokey Robinson rose from the Detroit club scene to become a key voice at Motown. He led the Miracles and wrote songs that sold by the millions. Hits such as Shop Around, You Really Got a Hold on Me, The Tracks of My Tears, Ooh Baby Baby, and Going to a Go-Go gave the group good radio play and big sales. Shop Around became Motown's first million-selling record and helped the label grow. Robinson worked closely with Berry Gordy at Motown. He wrote songs for the Miracles and for other artists on the label. He took on a role as vice president at Motown, where he helped people find their talent. His writing style never missed short hooks, soft lead lines, and tight choruses that radio stations favored. A good example of musical teamwork came with The Tears of a Clown. Stevie Wonder and producer Henry Cosby created an instrumental track that had never been used. Robinson heard the piece and wrote lyrics that fit it. The song appeared on the Miracles' 1967 album, Make It Happen, and was later released as a single in 1970. It reached number 1 in the United Kingdom and returned the Miracles to the top of the charts in the early 70s. Robinson left the Miracles in 1972 to start a solo career and to focus on his Motown work. The group introduced Billy Griffin as his replacement, and a farewell tour followed. Through the years, Robinson continued to write, record, and do performances. He appeared with other Motown artists in public spaces. One notable television special in 1970 featured the Miracles with guests such as the Supremes, the Temptations, and Stevie Wonder. He often worked in Hitsville, Motown's Detroit studio. His role was in writing, producing, and business deals. But while Smokey Robinson was shaping Motown from inside its walls, another voice was quietly rewriting the rules of soul itself, one that refused to be confined. Could Sam Cooke be that voice? Sam Cooke stepped out of the gospel performances into one of the most valuable features of early soul music. He quit singing with the Soul Stirrers and went on to Pop Records, which won a large-scale audience. In 1957, his single You Send Me, which was issued on the Keen Records, got a #1 position on the pop chart. Other producers like Rob Bumps Blackwell and Renee Hall, the arranger, did early sessions that heralded the full sound of Sam Cooke on the radio. Cooke composed songs, closed business contracts, and founded his labels and publishing companies. He established SAR Records with partners J. W. Alexander and S.R. Crane, a label that was to record gospel and secular artists. He then established Tracy Records and made an arrangement whereby RCA Victor was to distribute the records, with him retaining the ownership under his company. Those moves demonstrated that he desired to have control of his recordings and his rights to become a publisher. In 1964, Sam recorded A Change Is Gonna Come with strings and a broad arrangement. The track first appeared on the album Ain't That Good News and was prepared for single release later that year. Sam performed A Change Is Gonna Come on television, and the recording has been tied closely to public events of the 60s. The song used a full band, orchestral parts, and strong vocals. Cooke also recorded live shows that became important documents of his style. His live session from 1963 at the Harlem Square Club in Miami was later released and showed a rougher, more gospel-driven set than some of his studio work. The live tapes include extended versions of hits such as Bring It On Home to Me and display his ability to work with a tight backing group. Sam worked with his managers and partners to build publishing and recording deals. By 1963, he and his partners had appointed Alan Klein as manager. Under this arrangement, RCA Victor agreed to distribute the records while Cooke routed his deals through Tracy Records. The contract included a large advance and aimed to give Cooke control over his masters and publishing. On December 11, 1964, Sam Cooke died in Los Angeles after an incident at the Hacienda Motel. A motel manager, Bertha Franklin, shot him during a confrontation at the motel office. Police investigated, and the official ruling allowed the shooter to be released. Sam Cooke left a catalog of records, songwriting credits, and business papers that remain in circulation. Albums and singles have been reissued many times. His records continue to appear on the radio, in collections, and in new reprints that document his work and his business moves. Stevie Wonder's list isn't just about music, it's about legacy, friendship, and the artists who shaped his sound. Which of these legends do you think influenced him the most? Do you agree with his choices, or would you swap someone out? And if Stevie revealed a 9th name today, who do you think it would be? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more interesting videos.